Hello, my wargaming friends. My name is Maciek. I'm the co-author of the Gods of War Robert Lee rulebook and one of the members of the GM Boardgames team, which is responsible for the Gods of War Robert Lee wargame. Today, I would like to show you the rulebook for the Gods of War Robert Lee. We will have some view inside this rulebook. Now, I would like just to show you how this rulebook looks like. Okay, so we have a cover, we have the spiral binding. The spiral binding I personally like very much because I can do, for example, something like this. Yes, so I can put my rulebook on that page and maybe a little later on that page. It's very comfortable in use during your war games. But that's the spiral binding, but I would like to show you what is inside the. So we've got the cover with the picture, some notes from the authors, and so on, some pictures, dedication, and of course table of contents. There are 3 parts in the rulebook and 16 chapters. 16 chapters and overall almost 160 pages with a lot of pictures. So that's the table of contents. We've got first chapter is introduction. From here you will learn what things do you need to play the game, about the army and the generals, so how, for example, the army is divided and how generals are divided, how to base your miniatures. So we use the typical base, so 3 to 6 centimeters for infantry and cavalry, 3 to 3 centimeters for artillery and generals. There are a couple of other pictures, how to base your miniatures, how to put them on your bases. For example, we've got 2 rows of infantry, and with infantry base with additional row of drummers that we especially like our separate drummers strip for its realism. Light infantry base and so on. We've got dice rolls. The Gods of War Robert Lee has a very simple system of dice rolls, so you need a result of 4 or more for a successful roll. Yes, so you will not change the number you have to roll, so there will be no success on 5 or 3, it's always 4, so it's very easy to remember. Only the number of dice you will roll will change, but not the number you have to roll. Yes, there's of course re-rolls or repeating rolls. There's another subchapter about terrain scale and measuring the distances. So 12 inches is 1 mile. Yes, so the game is for very big battles. A short note about the markers, different markers. And at the end of this chapter there's a golden rule which shows the precedence if some rules are contradictory. Okay, let's go to another chapter. Another chapter is about units. Yes, from here you can learn about the front, flanks and rear of the units. How to position the units, how to show the line of sight, especially this detailed picture show the different situations with line of sight. Then the zone of control, how the zone of control works, of course with many examples. Then we have unit statistics. You can see them also in online army builder, but here we explain them. Unit size, unique training, so the units can have different trainings like recruits, like regular, veteran or elite units. And another information about the support, so the units can support each other and how does it work, with of course the picture explanation. Another chapter is very important but also very short, just 1 page, so it's turn sequence: initiative, patrol phase, command phase, activation phase and reorganization phase, and we will show them and talk about them in next chapters. Another chapter, the next chapter is command. Command is one of the most important thing in Gods of War Robert Lee. Command and fog of war two most important things. First, about the command, because you will be a commander of a great army. So we put a great effort to make the command rules not only friendly to the players, because they are easy to learn, but also advanced. We wanted to give the players many possibilities, but we also wanted to give you a feel of how to be a commander of a really great army, how to cope with your generals with different characters, because they can behave very differently according to their character. They can blunder the order, they can do something you don't want them to do. So it's all here, it's all in that command chapter. So we talk about generals. We have example card of the general. In this example is George Meade, the winner of the Gettysburg battle. We talk about command dice. So every general will have a command dice. He can use every turn to make some command tests. Also with examples, how to roll and keep initiative, and how to issue orders. Yes, with all command phase explanation. Yes, also how to measure distances between generals, how to give some dice from generals to other generals, and so on. And one of the first tables we can see, an important one, table of order test difficulty, because we've got 3 characters of generals: cautious, neutral, and aggressive, and 3 types of orders, so defend, march, and advance. And as you can see on the table, you need different number of successes to pass that command test, and it depends on the character of the general. So for example, a cautious general, it will be very easy for him to pass the defend order. You just need 1 success. So 4+, yes, always 4+. But if you want a cautious general to make an advance, to attack someone, you will need 3. So a lot of dice, yes. It is possible to for a cautious general to make an advance, but you will need a lot of dice for it. So that means that your commander-in-chief have to give many of his dice to issue that order, and he will be unable to use them in some other part of the battlefield. So that's how it works. And for example, aggressive general, he will be very easy to advance, but very hard to keep in defense. Yes, so he will need 3 successes to pass an defense test, and if he fails, he will attack the nearest enemy or just go into his direction if the enemy is too far to attack him. Let's go further. You've got types of orders and the table which is showing what is possible and what is not possible with that type of order, and with the situation if the core has no orders. Some different situations. What happens when the general will blunder the order, activating units and units out of command, issuing order in reaction to the enemy attack, how to move generals, how to transfer units between divisions or corps, how the generals behave on the battlefield, or even results of eliminating a general, which is not so easy but possible. Another table of commander scope of competence. What does it show? So you have commander-in-chief, corps commander, division general, and it shows what the general of that rank is able to do. So for example, commander-in-chief can issue orders, yes, division general not, but for example, flanking and reacting to some maneuvers of enemy brigades is on the division general's scope of competence, not the commander-in-chief, not the corps commander, but the division general. So you will need the 3 types of your general, so commander-in-chief, corps commander, and division general for different purposes. Another chapter is card. So you will have the battle cards, you will have general cards, you will have cavalry tactics and army tactics, so different kind of cards. Of them, most important are of course battle cards and generals cards. Yes, battle cards. There's example of battle cards here. I will talk about the battle cards in some additional video. When I explain, I will show you the cards how it will look like, and I will explain also how to play the cards, how to counter the cards, you of all rules about the cards here. Deploying and moving the patrol markers, chapter 6. So as I said, there are two most important things in Gods of War Robert Lee rulebook and wargame. So first is command and second one is fog of war. So when we started working on the rule book and on our rules, we just wanted the armies not to just show, not to just deploy on the battlefield, on the edge of the table, but we want you for the players to give them feel of something with what's unknown to the generals. So if you were a commander-in-chief of the 19th century army, you had to make a lot of decisions, not knowing the enemy dispositions, the enemy orders, the enemy strength, and so on. And here also, thanks to our system of patrol markers, you will have to make many plans and decisions, not knowing where exactly your enemy is. How does it work? Simply, each corps in your army will have two patrol markers. One which is empty and second one which is hiding your core. So for example, if you have 3 core in your army, you will have 6 patrol markers. Your enemy, he doesn't know which patrol marker, and they have numbers, yes, for example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes. Before you start a battle, you have to write that number 1 is your core, number 2 is empty, number 3 is also empty, number 4 is, for example, Hancock core. But your enemy doesn't know which one patrol marker is hiding a core or which one is just empty, it's just a patrol. And at the start of the turn, you will have the patrol phase and you will move your patrol markers and will start to reveal the patrol markers. So with this, you have to guess where the enemy core is and you have to reach the terrain, because when you see a patrol on a hill, so maybe he has artillery there because it will be a fantastic spot for artillery, but maybe it's just fake, it's just an empty patrol marker. So you will have that kind of dilemmas. Okay, let's move on, because you have rules how the patrol markers reveal each other. So terrain features also play a part here, because normally the patrol markers reveal when they close to 12 inches to each other, but for example in the forest or built up terrain it's 6 inches. So the terrain plays a role here. You can show how to reveal the markers, how to move the markers, and when the marker with a core is revealed, you have to deploy your core, and it also shows how to deploy your core from the patrol marker in different situations. How to move your units, because units on the table also can reveal the patrol markers. That's all. We've got another chapter. Chapter 7 is movement. How to move your units. We wanted to simplify the movement, because I don't like the system with some kind of wheeling and so on, because it makes the game about the moving your troops on the table, and it takes hours and hours and hours to move. No, it's not the most important thing you have to do as a player. So the system is very simple. What is most important for you is the center of the front edge of your base, and the distance is measured from one point to another point, and you can make a turns and so on. No measuring of some wheels and so on, just point to point, and you can move everywhere. It also shows how to move on the roads, through obstacles and so on. How to turn, which is also very easy. So you see, point to point, no wheeling. Very simple way of moving your units. artillery. That's the chapter number 8. You have different kind of guns with different statistics, different firepower, with different range, movement, and so on and so on. That all shows some historical features. How to fire with artillery, where you can fire, where you cannot. Yes, how to support your units. What are the types of artillery fire, a cannonade, a counter battery fire, and supporting fire, and with explanation. Of course, when you are shooting some modifiers for the morale, modifiers for some artillery fire, suppression by fire, so your units can be suppressed by fire, and supporting fire, and of course how the artillery behaves in combat and how it can maneuver. The longest chapter. The longest chapter is chapter number 9. It's firefight and close combat. So we've got general rules, how to make attacks, how to declare attacks, what is the sequence, because you just cannot move to the enemy and just shoot in order to start a fight. So we've got two kinds of fights, firefight and close combat. Close combat is not always after the firefight, it depends on the result of the firefight. So you have to declare an attack to start a firefight. So it shows how to move for an attack and what are the steps of declaring attacks, how to align units. It's very simplified, so you have to align one unit to one unit. How it is not possible, and some other rules how to align your units, how to attack next to impassable terrain, for example through the bridges, how it is not possible to attack. And another thing, the movement towards support. So when you declare an attack, you can move also supporting units, also with the attacking units to boost your morale or to make some flanking maneuvers, which are very efficient. Forced attacks. So for example, when your aggressive general will blunder the order, he will attack even if you don't want it. How to react to attacks, so reaction to attacks. We've got stand and shoot, counter attack, retreat, and change the fronts. And examples of the reactions, how to put your bases. So as you can see, there are a lot of pictures to make it simple to understand. Flanking attacks, one of my favorite rule, allows the supporting units to flank the enemy units. Very nice and very powerful rule if you want to destroy your enemy. How to extend the line in case of flanking attacks, because it is possible. If you as a defender have the supporting units, you can extend the line if your enemy wants to flank you, like on that picture. Yes, how to cover the flanks and rear. Sometimes it's the incidental combat can happen. How to make a retreat if you choose the reaction for the attack retreat, with some explanations and pictures. And because we learn how to attack and how to react for the attacks, then we have another explanation about the combat. So what is the action order in combat? We've got two combat rounds, the first combat round and additional combat round. It starts almost always with firefight, and then it could go to the close combat. We've got table of firefight results. It shows what will happen after that combat. and table of close combat results. If it will go, the fight will go to the close combat, you will read that table to show what are the results of the close combat are. They are very easy to remember. It's just two games, two games, and you will remember all that tables. It's very easy. Many different situations explained. Results of combat. Results of combat, how the units are pushed out of combat as a result. Modifiers for infantry and cavalry for the combat, yes, close combat skill modifiers. There are just few of them, and it's always plus. You don't have to deduct from your number of dice. You will always add number of dice, so it is also easier to remember. Morale modifiers in combat. Morale is a defense roll because your units are brigades of roughly 1500 men, so your defense roll will be the morale roll. Combat of multiple units, fallback, finishing combat, generals participation in combat, capturing generals, and combat results. Destroying unit, routing units, pushback of a unit, pushing back unit on to enemy unit, and pursuit. Next chapter. Chapter number 10 is terrain. So it explains different effects of the terrain on the units, on visibility, and also on movement, visibility, effects on morale, and some special rules for this terrain. For example, hills, rough terrain, forest, built-up terrain, road, sunken road, railway line, fortifications, stream, river, and so on, with different rules. Combat from behind an obstacle. We've got chapter 11, reorganization phase and army morale, with rallying routed units and regaining cohesion. So it's also a very important factor of the game. When the army morale drop to breakdown level, the army will retreat and the battle will end. We've got divisional breaking point, when the division will rout. Levels of army morale, when we do check the army morale, some conditions for the loss of army morale, how to regain army morale. It's very hard. And that's chapter 11. We've got chapter 12 with some special rules, like independent commander, like army reserve artillery, like corps artillery, how to resolve cavalry attacks, how rockets do work, skirmishers, dragoons, dragoon tactics, shock cavalry for mainly European armies, fanatics, some like and other unit traits like light infantry, open order, or even lances. Chapter 13, preparing the game. It explains how to prepare the game, so all the steps are here, step after step, how to prepare the game. So for example, you have prepare your army roster, then choose the year, then draw the generals for both armies, draw the battle cards, and so on and so on. It shows, it explains it in detail about battle cards, battlefield, how to put the strategic points on the battlefield, what are the strategic points, how to roll for initiative and choose the battlefield, how to put terrains like roads, rivers, streams, yes, what is base of operation, and choosing the army tactics and choosing the cavalry tactics. Each army has army tactics. It's cautious, neutral and aggressive. The cautious is the easiest to fulfill, but you will able to earn not so many points as for the aggressive tactics, but the aggressive tactics will be very hard to fulfill, so you will have to decide before the battle what your army tactics is, and your enemy he doesn't know which one is it. Also you have the tactics for cavalry, which is describing how the cavalry deploys on the battlefield. We wanted the cavalry not to be just like the ordinary units, but to behave and deploy on the battlefield according to the doctrine which it fought during the mid-19th century. End of the battle, so you have explaining how the battle goals, how to determine the winner and the size of the victory, how to control the base of operation and strategic points. Chapter 15, deploying an army, how to determine the size of the battle, what is the organization of artillery, how to upgrade armies and generals, how to upgrade units. And the last chapter shows armies of the Union and the Confederates. We have Army of Northern Virginia and Army of the Potomac with the rules for these two armies, which are included in the rulebook and in the online army builder and table of units at the end with index. We also have index and most important modifiers and tables at the end for you to remember. So that's the rule book for Gods of War Robert Lee Wargame. I hope you will now have a better picture of how does this rule book look like, and also something about the game rules. So that's everything for today. Thank you very much, and I hope you will enjoy your battles with Gods of War Robert Lee Wargame.